Good evening, welcome to India Decides. On the program, as the Supreme Court hits out at misuse of Section 66A of the IT Act, which allows the arrest of citizens for offensive online posts, we debate, are safeguards by the government alone enough to prevent abuse of Section 66A? Also on the program, the two editors of Zee News accused of extortion against the Jindal Group are sent to judicial custody in Tihar jail for 14 days. We ask, top Zee News editors sent to jail for 14 days, is this a warning to the media against crossing the line? I'm Vishnu Shom, here are your headlines. The Congress names the wife of Sanjeev Bhatt, the IPS officer who's taken on Narendra Modi as its candidate to take on the Gujarat Chief Minister in his constituency, Maninangar. An Indian couple from Andhra Pradesh has reportedly been arrested in Norway for allegedly reprimanding their 7-year-old son for wetting his pants. The child is back in India, but once his parents returned to Norway, they were arrested. It's official, Abhay Singh Chautala and Lalit Bhanot are elected unopposed as Indian Olympic Association President and General Secretary. Meanwhile, in a last-ditch attempt, the Indian Association will send a 2-member delegation to try and convince the International Olympic Committee not to de-recognize them. The former Prime Minister I.K. Gujral has died. He was 92 years old. He was ailing at a Delhi hospital. The government has announced 7 days of national mourning. But first, our top story. The government may say it's been well-intentioned, but the Supreme Court has made it clear that misuse of Section 66A of the IT Act cannot be tolerated. The court was dealing with the PIL of a student who says Section 66A has to be scrapped altogether.
More stern words today from the Supreme Court on the misuse of Section 66A of the IT Act, which allows arrest of citizens for offensive online posts. Section 66A of the IT Act is not well intended and can be abused. That's what the top court had to say as it dealt with a PIL asking for the law to be scrapped. This was in reply to the Attorney General, who said that Section 66A is well intended. The court also issued notices to Maharashtra, where 2 young girls were arrested by the police for an innocuous Facebook post criticizing the Mumbai Bandh after Bal Thackeray's death, and a 19-year-old detained for allegedly abusing MNS leader Raj Thackeray online. The court also issued notices to other states where citizens have faced action under 66A like Puducherry and West Bengal. The Attorney General representing the centre told the court that the government is coming out with guidelines to ensure the law is not misused. One of which is that only cases vetted by senior IPS officers not below the DCP rank in urban and rural areas and IG level in metros will be filed.
The reason why I moved to Supreme Court and not a lower court was because that I think that it affects everyone, and that there should be no jurisdiction on this judgment or any order that may be passed subsequently. Because it's such a fundamental right.
Today's order has come out as a huge relief for those who have been fighting against this draconian provision in the IT Act. By seeking an explanation from the Maharashtra government, the Supreme Court has sent out a clear signal not only to the state governments but to the centre as well against the abuse of this provision in the IT law.
But is this enough of a safeguard, ask many activists. The first bone of contention is the inclusion of vague terms like causing annoyance or causing inconvenience in Section 66A, which can be easily misused. The other is the fact that the punishment is disproportionate to the crime. Telecom Minister Kapil Sibal has told NDTV the controversial internet law can be revisited in the next few months if the new safeguards don't work.
Parliament has passed it, and it is a law which is consistent with the language used and the law in other jurisdictions in the world. There is instances of misuse, I accept. We need to deal with it. The law is evolutionary, the process is evolutionary, internet is evolutionary. Let us now wait for another 4 to 6 months, see if the change that we contemplate will make any difference on the ground. If it still doesn't make a difference, we'll again revisit.
While an amendment or scrapping this section is what activists want, it will be a long drawn-out process in Parliament. This act was passed in 2008 along with several other bills in 8 minutes minus a discussion. With A. Vaidyanathan, Vijay Kumar for NDTV.
Well, joining us now, Shreya Singhal. She is the petitioner against Section 66A. She's got issues with that. With her, Ninad Laud, Shreya's lawyer. Thank you both very much for joining us. Shreya, you must be surprised at the speed at which the Supreme Court has been going about making these statements. Has that come as a very pleasant surprise to you?
It has, because I think it's just such a hotly debated topic just now that the Supreme Court has also taken notice of how it's affecting everyone, and is hopefully will continue to expedite the process.
How would you counter the government's argument that, you know, it's well-intentioned is the law, it's meant to protect people, not necessarily harm them in any way, though there have been instances, no one denies that?
Well, you need to protect people, yes, but you can't take away their civil liberties. You can't take away their freedom of free speech, which is what I feel is happening when you get arrested under Section 66A of the IT Act.
What the government has done, Shreya, is to suggest to states that only an IG ranked officer can actually investigate these particular cases. Do you think that's a good step forward?
It's a step, but I don't think, I think it's a step in the right direction, but I don't think that it's particularly going to do us any good currently, because the Act in its purview is so vague, the wording is so vague, like Ninad said. There is no yardstick to define words like annoyance.
Yeah.
You know, so you really have to have some kind of, some distinct way that you can still have safeguards to protect you from on the internet, but also in a way that you don't have to forfeit your rights.
But that's really the problem, isn't it? How do you actually go about naming or words or abuses or actions which actually affect people to the extent that they should be punished? Isn't that the root of the problem? The law is vague in a sense, that's the argument, but then how do you actually fix that? I'll come to both of you, go ahead.
I think that in particular Section 66A, which is what we are contesting, is it's in its vagueness that it's curbing your right to free speech.
Yes.
And so you can have safeguards, but the thing is that you can write something that might be defamatory or insightful or hurtful to someone, but the thing is you can't then you can, of course that's going to be punishable, yes, under separate acts, under separate sections of the IPC or the CRPC, but you can't arrest someone for making innocuous comments such as what has happened just now.
Just to take off from the point that she's making, quite clearly in the case of Maharashtra and other states in the country as well, in the instances when this has happened, the spirit of the law has been broken. The law itself, technically, it can be argued, hasn't necessarily been broken. The merits of that argument, but the spirit has quite clearly been broken. That's what the Supreme Court seems to imply by what they've said today. But then it goes back to the question about the law itself. The law is designed to protect. It's taken time to constitute. It's been approved in Parliament. You can't get rid of it soon.
Well, I think the mere delay in bringing the law is absolutely no excuse for saying that we shouldn't scrap it so soon. I think the trouble lies with, as she was explaining, the word annoy, for instance. Who would it annoy? And I mean, who's going to decide whether it is annoying someone? So we feel that if it is left to a cop, in common parlance, it's always going to be very, very subjective. Rather, if we leave it to a court or a magistrate to decide, it might just have a slightly better approach.
One final question to you. How would you react to a lot of people out there who've been abused on the internet? A lot of women, for example, who find themselves constantly targeted. There are race attacks out there, there are sexist attacks out there, there are homophobic attacks out there. Laws like this are actually meant to protect individuals. We can discuss how the law is inadequate in many instances, but the need to protect is perhaps more now than ever before.
There is a need to protect, but the thing is that if you see all of these hurtful, sexist, racist comments that are bullying, cyberbullying that's taking place just now, you do need to have safeguards. But the thing is that the internet is I mean, it is anonymous. You can make fake accounts, fake Twitter handles, all of that, and you know, you'll be gone by the next minute. But the thing is, doesn't mean that you can say hurtful things. You can be charged under something else. Doesn't mean that you have to be scared of saying something that might be that might not be hurtful,
Sure.
but that might be hurtful. You have that prerogative to express your viewpoint. It might be hurtful to someone else.
Yeah.
It might be derogatory to someone else. But this Section 66A is taking away your right to express yourself
Yeah.
on the internet.
Yeah. Are you disappointed at the remarks made by Kapil Sibal? Do you expect him to do more?
Well, I hope that he might not have the power to do more just now, but I feel that that's why we've moved to the Supreme Court, because as a citizen, I feel that anyone can move to the Supreme Court, can move to a court, can move to the judiciary and seek redressal for an injustice